Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast with Amir Jahangir. He is CEO at Mishal Pakistan. We're going to talk about a bunch of topics today: startups, Pakistan, competitiveness, platform economy, strategic communication. Amir has a nice background at Mishal, and I'm glad to have him on. This podcast was brought to you by podpire.com. If you want to start, scale, or be invited to a podcast like this one, get great guests like Amir, get insights, build a community, subscribers, leads, and even clients, podpire.com. Amir, welcome to the pod. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and what you do?
Well, thank you very much for having me. Currently I work for Mishal, which is a country partner institute of the World Economic Forum. So we do a lot of research around um, what are the economic challenges, and also we look at the competitiveness atmosphere and environment of the country's economy.
You feel that Pakistan is competitive right now?
Pakistan is going through a transition. Uh, it is it is identifying its new role in the geo-economic paradigm. It is moving away from the geostrategic to geo-economic in terms of its approach, and it is now identifying some new areas where it can be part of the global value chain in the region.
And okay, so my first contact with Pakistan was hiring folks to work for my various agencies. Pakistanis, similar to Indian quality, price is low, quality is somewhat good, better than a lot of country, I feel, for example, Philippines and so forth. And I think, yeah, my first logo and my first graphic designers were from Pakistan. So that was my first touch with the country. What sector of the economy is strong? And if IT is one of these strong sectors, how can Pakistan stay competitive in that area with the venue of AI and everything that comes with it?
I think Pakistan is the IT industry is thriving because there are multiple reasons. One, the total population is around 250 million of the country, and out of that, 60% is below the age of 30. So it's a very young country and it has a very young population. And most of these young people, when they graduate, they have good English skill sets. Their accents are also very similar to what Europeans or American accents will have. So a lot of people are able to communicate internationally also. So this has made Pakistan as one of the strongest players in the international market in terms of freelancing and other areas of IT outsourcing services. Uh, the areas of uh, thriving, I would say, there other than the IT, are agriculture and also the services sector. So banking is one of the sectors where Pakistani bankers are now leading or being part of senior management across the world in the banking sector. Um, the most challenging area for Pakistan, I think, is um, the textile sector, which is going through a transition. There is so much innovation going on in the global value chain, and Pakistan is struggling in terms of keeping its position in the global market, because the world is changing from natural fiber to man-made fiber. And that is where Pakistan needs to concentrate and innovate its own industry and its own product line.
Maybe I should have started with your background because Seems that you got your first president role quite quickly. Then you were executive director at Computer News and CEO at CNBC Pakistan, yeah, Vision Network Television Limited. So, how did you get these roles so quick? How did you scale so fast?
Well, I was president of this not-for-profit youth organization, and it was basically working in terms of how to create opportunities for the young people. And this was, I think, this was back in 1988 or 89. I was hardly 16 or 17 years old. But that was the moment where a lot of changes were happening in Pakistan. Pakistan was coming out of a military regime to a democratic phase, and I was fortunate enough to be part of that transition. So that's why when there were emergence of a lot of youth representative organizations, so I created one with my friends, and we tried to do something and look for what can be the livelihood opportunities for the youth in the new democratic Pakistan.
When
But
did you
then
start in nonprofits? Because like a lot of people would ask, like, how did you make your money? Like, yeah, that's my.
Yeah, well, it was something like we used to do certain public events, which were we used to do concerts around certain themes. Like we did a concert for um, raising awareness on the floods in Pakistan at that time, or also in Bangladesh. And that was something which used to fund the activities of the not-for-profit, and also we used to contribute into the relief work in those areas where the floods have affected the people. So other than that, there were other similar activities through which we used to raise funds.
And why nonprofits? There were there very few capitalistic opportunities back in these days, and you were more focused on helping people get out of poverty. Tell us a bit more about your background, the why behind nonprofit.
Well, basically, at that time, there was no classification between a for-profit or a not-for-profit. The legal structure was not in place. So we wanted to do things where we can help people around us. We used to see that, a lot of my class fellows who got out of these schools and colleges, and they were unable to get jobs at that time. Or they wanted to do some part-time jobs, and there were no jobs at that time. So that gives us this idea: how do we create an opportunity for people to, instead of seeking jobs, how can they actually start doing something which can make them some money, or how they can support their family? So that was the thought behind it, basically.
Right, and that got you like a pretty important job in 2003. So CEO at CNBC Pakistan. How did that came about?
Well, I was basically an IT journalist, and this was a very new thing at that time. This is 1997, and I was running this magazine called Computer News, and then I was offered a job in a production company, and it was something very new in Pakistan because there were no private television channels at that time. So it was something which was opening up, and I thought that, it's a good opportunity to look into this industry. So when I joined that production company, and then that production company asked me to lead that initiative, and then transform that production company into a television channel. And for that, then we acquired the franchise for Pakistan and named it as CNBC Pakistan. So it was a CNBC franchise for Pakistan where business news was supposed to be produced in Urdu language.
And how did that transition to nonprofit to profit feel?
It was a game changer for me because I had no idea. But the interesting thing was that when I was working as a journalist for an IT publication, and I joined the television media, and I used to ask my editors or my director news that why don't we cover the technology news in business news? And they used to tell me that technology news is not part of the business news. This is 2000, early 2000, and I was taken aback that how can we have this sort of thinking, because for me, business news is, the main thrust was on technology news. So I convinced my editor that we should be concentrating on that also. And then when we started producing technology news also. So the influx of advertising and revenue came in such a great manner that helped us in transitioning from a production company to a full-fledged channel.
Right. And what came after that? Because if I read on your LinkedIn here, you somewhat got back into nonprofit with Al Shifa Trust Eye Hospital, for example. So you kind of juggle between still giving from the heart and then making good capitalist business, because I see Mobile Sync Pakistan. So you always like keep on juggling with these two worlds, right?
Well, when I was at CNBC, I had a falling out with the board because they were thinking on something else, and my passion was totally in the other direction. So I resigned and I moved into other areas. So I sort of worked for multiple companies. I was trying to find out what will be something, what is my calling basically. So I worked for a telecom company, then I worked for a software company. I was also volunteering for the Shifa Eye Trust, basically helping them in designing their communication and outreach strategy. So how they can use media to basically get their message out. At that time, the number of people donating eyes in Pakistan was zero. And almost 75 eye pairs were imported from Sri Lanka. So Sri Lankan people were donating those eyes to multiple countries, but Pakistan was getting a share of 75. But now I think that number has improved, and more than 100,000 people now donate in Pakistan also. So that was my passion, that, how do we use media to communicate public good, and how do we engage people through media? So we, instead of just creating a business or just a profit-making entity, how media can also play its role in terms of awareness, in terms of engagement and public good.
And you advised the new CEO at CNBC, and you started your own company, Sama TV.
Well, I was hired by the board. I was reached out by the people who were managing it, and they asked me to join that. So Sama TV is still one of the leading television news channels in Pakistan. So while I was the CEO for Sama TV, I was also asked to advise the new CEO who joined CNBC. So I was advising him on basically channel strategy and what sort of uh, value they can create uh, for the shareholders, also for the viewers as well.
And then back again with UNICEF and nonprofits. And you had like interesting positions in the meanwhile. For example, that you worked as a consultant for a division of Standard and Poor's. You also worked in 2012 for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Denmark. Like, how do you get like all of these great jobs? How are you so well connected, or is it just like people referring you?
Well, actually, there was a period before joining Sama TV. I was working for USAID, and I was part of an initiative where a competitiveness support fund was created, which was a joint initiative between USAID and the government of Pakistan. So the fund was to create more awareness around how do you make the economy more competitive. And also my task was also to create a program on innovation journalism, which was basically which was basically developed at the Stanford University. So I was looking after the program from Pakistan and how to train journalists to understand innovation and how they can then report on innovation, the entire process and the impact. So I was fortunate enough to be the person who was doing that from Pakistan. So that made me a bit more visible in the development sector and also in the media sector. Uh, Having experience from television, print, and then creating a program. So it made me available and connected to a lot of diplomatic circles where these people were reaching out to help them in creating programs for them. So Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Denmark was part of that, where we developed their strategy and um, their program for public diplomacy, basically for Pakistan.
Right. So the team throughout your career, because we could go on and on from the World Economic Forum to all the other companies, has been to take media and communicate something to someone so that there can be a broader and greater positive impact on society.
Yeah, that was something that I really wanted to do, because that was also very unique to the Pakistani media industry, which was young at that time. Also, it was something which I was at that time probably the only CEO who was not from a family of media owners. So I was a hired CEO. So I had a unique opportunity at that time, because most of the people from within the family were confined to satisfying the elders in the family. And my setup, which I joined, had a professional board which used to ask for not only a return on the investment they have made, but also what sort of social dividends we are creating as a corporate citizen. So that was, I think, an opportunity which we were able to create and set a new pathway for the new CEOs who were joining the Pakistani media industry.
So as I was going, I just Googled like media mogul. Do you consider yourself a Pakistani media mogul?
Oh no, not at all. I'm not a. I am just a. I'm a hired resource. A media mogul will be someone who owns a media entity.
Yeah, I see Mir Shakil Ur Rahman.
Yeah, he's the he's the I would say the biggest media group in Pakistan.
Hamid Harun, Mian Amir,
Yeah, these
Mubashir
are
Lukman.
all family oriented businesses which they have either inherited or they have led these because of.
And how's it to compete against these guys? Like, yeah, tell me.
It's really tough because, when you own a company and you own or your family owns a business, the pressures are very different. because when you are answerable to a board, you need to create value for your viewers, the people who want to watch your or want to consume content from you, and also then your team as a management head of the entity, you need to take care of the team that you have also. And then the board is also there who wants to see what sort of vision they are giving and how we are implementing that in the company. So it's a tougher job, and it's a tougher task basically for a professional to be in that field, rather than to have a family member who can just, I did not have the luxury to sit at the dining table in the night and say, Dad, we need another $100,000 for starting another venture.
Or golden plated toilets.
Yeah. So that was, but that also gave us the opportunity to be different also, and a lot of opportunity to experiment also. So one of the I think I really enjoyed that was we created a cell within the television, Sama TV, where we linked the public health service with the screen that we had on. So we used to provide information plus also accountability of the healthcare people, whether they are providing the right information or not. So that actually was very well received. It became a national polio control cell. 17 other media entities later on joined that. I was selected for the World Economic Forum's Young Global Leader. We received almost 16 to 17 different international awards for that. So I think that was something which changed the pace of how media was looking in Pakistan, that you can commercialize your media ethics also. If you practice ethics, you can actually make more money.
Which leads to my next question. We've seen a lot of these slow growth country not growing as fast because of corruption. For example, here in Mexico, I feel things could grow way faster if there would be less of that, right? Because the system is based on trust. If we trust, then we can start winning more, and we can form partnerships and can just grow faster. And trusted goes in a lot of directions, right? The government, the business, and so forth. What has been your experience with corruptions with VS competitiveness?
Well, when I left Sama TV, uh, I was really thinking about in my life, how do I recreate myself. So I went back to what I used to do at the Competitiveness Support Fund. So I relaunched my company, Mishal. And then I reached out to the World Economic Forum that, I'm doing this now, and would you be interested in working with me, or what value I can provide to the forum. So fortunately, they reached out and they agreed to make me the country partner institute. And then we started focusing on the areas which were the most critical for doing business in Pakistan. And one of the top issue was actually corruption. So we then reached out to the National Accountability Bureau in Pakistan, and we told them that, look, you need to create a narrative around corruption is bad for economy. So we created we started working with them in creating a whole campaign on say no to corruption. And this is now part of every public sector communication, whether you see, an electricity bill, a telephone bill, any license, driving license, it will have this slogan, say no to corruption. So it became a national issue. And then Pakistan started improving on the corruption indicators also. It used to be the third corrupt country, and now it's way down now. So this is something that I really enjoyed personally, that how we did use communication tools to basically raise a national level attention towards something which was affecting all of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love their convo, man. We could talk for hours and hours. We could do a round two in a couple months from now. Where can people find out more about you, Amir?
Well, they can just Google me. I'm mostly, my profile is on LinkedIn. I will be starting a blog or a vlog on life after 50. So people like me who want to recreate, or who have already done a lot of things, but they want to do something new and exciting, and how they can transfer that knowledge or that acumen about certain things, how they can transfer that. So my next vlog will be on that, basically.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm Charles Cormier, host, CEO Wisdom Podcast. If you want to start, scale, or be invited to a podcast that is podpire.com. That was Amir Jahangir. Thank you, everyone.